Deer season's upon us. It is a special time in Missouri, and we're here on This Week in Missouri Politics to talk about a very special, momentous event. Trish Gunby, Representative-elect now, correct?
Correct.
Flipped a seat that had been held by Republicans in the Missouri legislature since there weren't Republicans in the Missouri legislature, going back to when there was a super minority of Republicans. People forget that's possible. That was something back in the day. The area you held was held by Republicans from Pat Seacrest to John Loudon, Stephen Blanton, and you flipped it. Tell folks about yourself and about how this campaign came to be.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've actually lived in the district 25 years and worked professionally at City Court Mortgage in Purina, raised my family, ended up staying home to raise my kids, active in Parkway Schools and also at my church, and most recently was doing voting rights work in the St. Louis area. And so when Gene Evans resigned, I saw this as an opportunity to run for office.
So that's got to, I always find these conversations to be very interesting. You're sitting around a kitchen table or you're on the couch and you're like, you know what, we have a great life here and we live in the suburbs and I'm active in all these things. I think I'm going to upend our life and run for office. How does that conversation start for you?
Well, the way it happened for our family is we were actually visiting my husband's mom and not really paying attention to what was going on in St. Louis. And I started getting emails and text messages and phone calls saying, don't you live in the 99th district? And I asked my husband, what's happening? And started talking to people, and people started reaching out first and saying, I think you need to do this. I just had a brief conversation with my husband at the time, thinking he'd say exactly what you just said. And his response was, I think this would be perfect for you, and I think that's what you should do. So here we are.
That's excellent. Your campaign was very different. I remember there was a campaign, I think, that people forget, but made a lot of change in South St. Louis County when Scott Sifton ran against Sue Shamel. Scott Sifton ran to the left on abortion rights, and most of the time you would have thought you wouldn't win. I think Scott Sifton fundamentally changed the dynamic of abortion rights in the state because he won. You took a race and you directly talked about a lot of social issues. LGBT rights is something that you had no problem talking about that a lot of times people don't. Gun control, abortion rights. These are issues that most of the time I think candidates that would run in those areas would back away from. You stepped right toward them. Do you think that was a difference in the race? Did it fire some people up or it just seemed different from the outside looking in?
Right. Well, I do think it was a difference for the race. I do think it fired people up. My intent was, I told people, Google my name. I was working on these issues before this opportunity arose, so I really didn't have to craft a platform. My platform, I had been living for a number of years. I had started out doing LGBTQ inclusion in my church. I'm a Methodist, and that denomination is likely to fracture next year. So I was doing work around that. Michael Brown happened. I started getting involved in some racial justice issues, and then got involved in voting rights work following the 2016 election and was part of a group that helped get the photo ID law tabled, and now we're before the Missouri Supreme Court waiting to hear their verdict on that.
When you go to the doors and you hand them your information, they see this, did you have some people get into some conversations with you that you were able to kind of see where they were coming from, or is that district, I guess, is in line with you on those issues as it is the way they voted?
Well, early on, we spent a lot of time just telling people there was a special election.
Sure.
For literally the first 2 months, people were unaware. So you spend a lot of time just reminding that there's a special election. And then the second thing I got asked was, are you crazy? Why would you want to go there? Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to upend your world? So that was about another month. So by the time we got to the issues piece, it was really late in the campaign. And by then, people had looked up information on me online or followed me on social media, kind of knew where I stood, and I literally got to the point where when I would hit the doors, I had a great field operation. People sort of paved the way for me. So I would hit the door and literally people would just say, oh my gosh, it's Trish. Are you Trish? So those conversations were really fun to have, and people kind of already knew where I was.
So you have a unique background coming to the legislature. Very seldom is it people that have worked in these issues. You probably know a lot about the issues coming in more so than most people. Let's talk about now that you are representative-elect and you will be there in January. LGBT rights. What are some issues that the state of Missouri can actually address that your constituents want you to work on?
Well, I think the first thing that needs to be done is the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act needs to be passed. It's been 21 years. It's long overdue.
Do you think that's a question of when, not if?
Well, if it's when, it should be in 2020. basically.
Okay.
Because I think as a state, I think I see it as something even along the lines of economic development and growth. I think if you're looking for corporations or startups to be based in the state, those are companies that have inclusive policies. And so why would they want to come to a state that does not have inclusive language?
That's the most compelling argument to sway people that are indifferent or even against, is the economic development argument.
Well, I think that, and I also think with millennials. I mean, I've got 2 kids in their mid-20s, and I know people who aren't living in the area because they just feel like this, their hometown, the state, is not moving in the right direction.
Let's talk about access to abortion. That's been the issue that's been in the news the most for the entire year, and I'm sure in your campaign, I saw you address it many times.
Yes.
You seem like you were very up to date on these policies. Where should access to abortion begin in the state of Missouri, and where should it end? Is it something where 20 weeks? There's been all these measures filed. What is your opinion on where abortion access should begin and end in Missouri?
Well, I just believe in Roe versus Wade. I feel like now, as a 59-year-old woman, I had more rights as a teenager regarding this issue growing up. So the idea that now I have women have fewer rights than I did as a teenager is very disconcerting to me. And the idea of no exceptions with rape or incest, I can't even wrap my head around that.
I don't see people really on the pro side of the rape and incest question, but I do see when you actually get down in Jeff City, you're in these committee hearings, you have to come up with, okay, is it a 16-week, is it a 20-week? These are questions that now you're a policymaker, you'll be tasked with when they come around to you in the committee hearing. Where's your position on it?
I believe that's a discussion a woman has with her physician, her family, and it's between them. And
so the government should be totally out of it.
Yes, yes.
Let's talk about a couple more things. You actually, when you flipped the seat, there was a lot of money spent against you. There were some attacks. One was they said you were pro city-county merger. I never saw that from you, but I think it's a conversation. If you're in the city of St. Louis, if you're in this municipal area, I don't know how you don't look at some of these things. I got a ticket almost for rolling through a stop sign in West County, while just down the street that week, 3 children were killed. The consolidation, maybe the current plans aren't the one, but is there a place for consolidation in the St. Louis area?
Well, I'm glad you didn't connect me to Steve Stenger, because the idea that I got connected to him was ludicrous. I actually had emails that I ended up sending to the media saying I had said that I was against Steve Stenger as Metro Mayor, was against Better Together, shared that information on my website. On one of my issues was that I was not in favor of Better Together. What I am in favor of, and I was actually doing...
The Stenger attacks didn't seem to work, right?
Well, I don't know. No, well, I'm here. So
yeah, the margin you won by, those attacks
no, they
weren't
didn't
effective
work.
yet.
But people did. I did get calls. I did get emails. People wanting clarification. So if nothing else, it just made people question something.
Sure.
But luckily, people followed up, and so here I am today. But I was doing the petitions for the Board of Freeholders prior to becoming a candidate. So I do believe we have to sit down as a region, and we have to uncover what's the best St. Louis area that we can put out here, and how do we do that in terms of the city and the county. I don't know what that looks like, but I want a group to weigh in on that, and then I will weigh in on it.
Where you come from, is it schools? Is it police protection? Is it fire protection? Where would you start that process? Maybe not merging everything, but to me, they're just the overlap. You would never organize something from scratch like it is now. There's no logical way you do it.
I don't think, I mean, the idea of creating what we have now from scratch, that does not work for me. No, not at all. So I think you have to look at all of those dynamics. I know obviously if you're in the city, the school situation and public education, and as you move, farther away from the city in terms of schools and all of that, I think people just need to realize that we're all in this together, and we want all of our children to be educated equally, equitably. And so I would hope that people would look at schools, they would look at first responders, they would look at municipalities and where there might be ways we can consolidate. I know there were a lot of people in favor of municipal court reform, and you wouldn't even have to merge necessarily to do that. So there are things we can do without officially merging, and so I would just be interested in seeing what that looks like. Again, I don't know, I'm not studying it, so I'm glad people are studying it.
Couple issues now that you are a policymaker. There's been a lot of discussion about a list that was kept about women's menstrual cycles by the state. Now that you're going to be in Jeff City, what can you do to make sure those kind of things don't happen again? I mean, I think no matter what side of the abortion debate you're on, that struck you as a little odd.
I think a woman should be in that role, and then that probably would not have happened.
This man's not going to argue with you about that. Let's talk also about gun control. It's something that you've spoken about. That's an issue. There's Senate hearings right now about gun safety and crime. What is the answer to me, having a St. Louis gun policy for the rest of the state won't matter because you could just bring them in. What is the answer that Missouri could have that might actually help control crime? Because if you're watching this in West Plains, it matters to you very much, the crime situation in St. Louis, because frankly, the state services you get in West Plains are paid for out of St. Louis. So these things matter to everyone. What would be your proposal to ebb some of the gun crime in St. Louis?
Well, one of the things I got asked at the doors by a lot of independents, actually, I got asked about gun legislation. And I'm a proponent of universal background checks, and that universally was seen as a good thing. So I'm also I'm a candidate of distinction with Moms Demand Action. So we're not saying take away guns. We're not saying take away the Second Amendment. We're just saying there are ways we can certainly look at universal background checks.
Is that talking about like the assault rifles?
Assault rifles, red flag laws, those kinds of things. And I heard that obviously from Democrats, but I heard it from independents as well. So.
Last question. I saw Nicole Galloway was running for governor, is very active in your race and helpful. What was it like having Nicole campaign for you? How was she received in your district? A district I assume she has to win to become governor.
Yes, she won the district in the midterms. She's been very supportive. I got to meet her when she was down here earlier in the summer. She came to help launch a canvassing event, a door knocking event for me a few weeks ago, and I have her personal cell number now. So I'm real excited about that, and I'm happy to help her win.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on This Week in Missouri Politics and sharing your views. Hope you'll come back as you actually get in the legislative swing of things next year.
I'm very excited. I thought I might be here as a 4-person panel, but I'm happy I'm here as a representative-elect.
Winning is winning, right?
That's
Scoreboard.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel, but first I want you to go to showmissouri.com. This is your Missouri one county at a time. This week we're in Denton County, the home of Judge Dorman Steelman. Learn all about Denton County and the rest of the state, its history, one county at a time on Show Missouri. We'll be right back after this.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association.
Your energy needs are changing. That's why at Ameren, Missouri, we're not waiting on the future. We're building it with the Smart Energy Plan, advancing thousands of projects across the state, helping reduce emissions through cleaner energy sources, boost reliability with self-healing equipment, and better withstand storms with new composite poles. Moving Missouri forward and bringing us all a little closer together. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. Our Opinion Maker panel, the newly engaged Braxton Payne. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Representative Tommie Pierson Jr., Senate candidate and the new assistant floor leader, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Representative Jim Murphy, the best quotes we have, it's either you or Barklage. Always welcome to that back on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And Tommy Robbins, very dapperly dressed. Keller's going to be jealous. Let's talk about the special elections. Representative, this had to feel good, right? Flipping a seat. You know, if you're the Republicans, you have 115 members, one seat, but when you're the Democrats and you're pushing back and trying to build your numbers, big night for the Democrats.
Definitely a big night. We enjoyed those results, and we just look forward to using this as an opportunity to kind of gain some momentum as we move into the 2020 election. I think Trish Gunby did a wonderful job in flipping that seat. And I want to congratulate the other representatives who will be joining us at the 100th General Assembly, the second session.
You're having, what, about 5 new members come join you?
Yes.
Is that right? And one was Scott Cupps down in Southwest Missouri. I think he's going to be a star
job.
when he gets there. But this is in your neck of the woods. You fight. I bet it gets old for you because all these other people have no Democrat opponents, or they have non-competitive races. You're from the part of the state where there's competitive races.
Oh, yeah.
This is near yours. It was a hard-fought campaign. The Democrats ended up winning, but was it a surprise to you?
Not really. Actually, I'm actually happy that the Democrats have taken such a joyful victory on this thing because, we went through this in the 97th last year with.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, and we lost the specials. Specials are hard to win for us. And a good example is when Jean Evans won this seat a year and a half ago, she got 9,700 votes. In this election, there was a grand total of 6,100 votes, and the winner had a little over 3,000.
Part of this is there's a reason why she was asked to run the Republican Party. She's a very good campaigner.
Right.
I mean, Braxton, is this, when you watch where the competitive races are moving, you used to think of Jefferson County, the Boot Heel, places that now you maybe think of West County, St. Louis, Eastern Jackson County. The battlegrounds in the state may be shifting, and maybe this was part of it.
This is the proof of the new Democratic Party, not only in Missouri but across the country. We are moving in the suburbs. I still think there's races to win in Jefferson County. I think St. Charles County is the next frontier for the Democratic Party. I really think this. In the next 4 years, you're going to see, I think Nicole Galloway is going to do great in St. Charles County this year. And I really think the Democratic Party should focus on these races like Trish Gunby's, the ones that we know we can win, even if we're outspent 2-1.
Do you go into Chesterfield after that? I mean, you can't stop there, right? I mean, to have a sizable, even minority, you got to break out. Is it you go across the river, or do you go into Chesterfield next?
No, I think Chesterfield's a great opportunity. I mean, it's educated. You also have our income base, which is what the Democratic Party has moved to. You saw it in Kentucky in this last election too, in the suburbs of Cincinnati. Educated women that make over $100,000 are the new Democratic base, and I think that's going to happen in the state of Missouri.
Tommie Robbins, I mean, the data shows that I think some of the places where when you and I would talk politics 5 years ago, the battlegrounds for these state rep races are definitely changing.
Yeah, I mean, politics is moving. You might have a few more college-educated women in the Democrat Party. You may have a few more blue-collar workers in the Republican Party. But special elections are curious things. I wouldn't. They're more outliers than they are predictors.
But when you have a seat that was held, I mean, go all the way back to the 60s as a Republican seat, this is a place I think Republicans assumed they would win. That has changed over time. You look at places where if you told me there wouldn't be a Democrat in Jefferson County when Bill McKenna was in office, I would think you were crazy. Now, today, there's none, and competitive involvement, it may be just a shifting map.
Yeah, but when you spend $201,000 to get 3,300 votes, you're not going to do that in every election. And I don't think that's indicative of a shift in demographics. I think there are solid Republicans in West County, and I think we'll take that seat back.
It'll be interesting. It'll be one to watch, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's talk about the governor's race. You did have Nicole Galloway out, very active in this. These are the places she has to win and win big, right? She can't just win this 51-49 in a district like that. She's got to win the suburbs very large.
Yeah, I think she won this district in her auditor's race by 56%. So I think we're going to see that trend not only grow. Nicole Galloway is very focused. I mean, you saw the campaign in Kentucky. It's a great blueprint for Nicole Galloway, that she's going to focus on kitchen table issues. Mike Parsons has stripped away health care from 100,000 children in the state of Missouri. She's going to focus on that because people want health care. People want, a living wage. Those are the things she's going to focus on, and I think she's going to win. And I don't think she's just going to win. I think she's going to win by 4 or 5 percentage points.
All right, we're going to clip that tape. I mean, I understand being optimistic she's going to win.
You said last week that she was going to lose by 8 or 9
I had too much faith. When you're wrong, you're wrong. I put too much faith in the wrong spot. I can admit it.
Very good. I saw those predictions as well. But Nicole's relatable. She's a mother. She has young children. I think her ability to relate to people will really help her in this race. And so, and I'm just looking forward to seeing her just continue to do the things she's doing. She's doing a fine job as auditor. She's doing her job well. She's doing her job under budget. She's, giving money back to the state. And I think that just shows the type of person that she is. And I think that freshness is what we need in the state.
It's interesting, though. I mean, if this race were today, I don't think anybody would say she's not the underdog, right? Significantly.
I mean, Governor Parson has added 40,000 new jobs, $3 billion in corporate investment, and has the lowest unemployment rate, including the minority community, ever. He's raising money at an unprecedented clip, even with contribution limits. And he's just last week he was in St. Louis at some urban churches. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't have more votes than any other candidate has ever gotten statewide.
Interesting. I think it maybe comes down to who do the Democrats have at the top of the ticket? Because Donald Trump, whether I understand in the Post-Dispatch newsroom, he's hated. 100% of them hate him. But in Missouri, obviously, when you win by 19 points, that's a blowout win. I'm not sure that's that much different today. The one Democrat that I think could come to a bar in your district is Joe Biden. I don't know that any other Democrat running for office anybody wouldn't run from them if they did.
Absolutely. If he didn't trip on his tongue, he'd probably do very well. But the chances of that are very slim. Talk about likability.
Yeah.
Mike Parsons is likable to everybody, and there's no doubt about that. If it's a race on likability, Mike Parsons wins in a landslide.
Braxton, you're the election expert here. The top of the ticket's going to matter, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden could go to any place in the state of Missouri, and I think everybody on the Democrat ticket would be seen with him. I'm not sure it'd be smart to be seen with some of the other Democrats running for president.
Yeah, but I think Elizabeth Warren has great appeal. Bernie Sanders has great appeal in places like Jefferson County. I mean, that Bernie Sanders won that in the primary in 2016. He beat Hillary Clinton in the primary in Jefferson County, Francis County. I think those types of places and
You think a socialist can go to Farmington?
I do. I mean, I really do think a Democratic socialist can go to Farmington. But I also think, I mean, Nicole Galloway is going to have great places in Greene County. I mean, she's performing an audit there, and she's very popular. She's been able to go into places like Hannibal, Greene County, places Clay County, places that maybe are not favorable for Democrats, and perform quality audits and do her job well. And that voters like that. Voters like when you take a stand for taxpayers, and that's what she's doing.
I can see Kevin English Bulldog not liking a socialist in Farmington.
I could see that as well. But, you know, I think ultimately people will, they have to go with the issues that matter to them most. And, you know, whoever it is that's at the top of the ticket, they will hopefully carry some weight. But I think when it comes to the governorship, I think folks will look at those issues and just take them one-on-one.
All right, prediction, just us talking here. Nicole Galloway wants to see Joe Biden win, right?
I don't know. I think she would welcome any other Democrat. I think as long as they can drive turnout in areas that we need to drive turnout, that's who she wants.
Mike Parsons would love to see Elizabeth Warren win, right? He would love it.
That's it.
There's no socialist welcome in Bolivar, right?
You can spin all day long. But
I would like to see
fine.
Elizabeth Warren explain why you shouldn't have to work for things to Mike Parsons or anyone in Bolivar.
Even the Democrats are pointing out that her plan is unsustainable and unpaid for. I think I saw this morning $16 billion is unaccounted for.
And is there a place big enough in Bolivar to hold a rally for Donald Trump? I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Let's talk about the gaming issue. Obviously there's a Medicaid expansion proposal on the ballot. There's several things that are cost a lot of money. It's interesting. Gaming has hit. Missouri does gaming, generates revenue from it. There's a big kerfuffle that I think most people don't understand. There's kind of slot machines in gas stations. There's slot machines in casinos, and some people say they're illegal. Some people say they aren't. What really happens?
Yeah, so a lot of those games, gambling in Missouri requires money in, money out, and in the middle chance. And so a lot of those games that the Post-Dispatch has been talking endlessly about, and by the way, they hate everything, so it's not surprising that they're
mostly
against
Republicans, but yeah.
What are they for? But anyway, there's no chance element to it, so it doesn't fall inside that doesn't fit the definition of gambling. But the reality is they're already there. People are enjoying them. Why doesn't the state just capture some fresh revenue?
And an expert because you work on some of these issues, correct?
Correct.
Now, break it down. You have guys in your office giving you both pitches. Where does this fall?
Here it is.
This is the Jim Murphy breakdown. We should once a week just have the Jim Murphy issue breakdown.
We've got gaming machines that are illegal. And, you know, call them whatever you want. They're illegal gaming machines. We don't have the resources to shut them down as they are. We have no way of telling if they're rigged or whatever. Are our citizens getting cheated? We don't know. But we do know that the gas stations are making money off them. They want them. We know that the gambling casinos don't want them because they think it's taking money from them. But we need to get that money back in the state coffers, put them in our schools. We need to find a way to make it work.
I could put out 5 Budweisers and let you break these things down today. Where does it actually come? Where does your caucus stand on this? Is it a revenue model? Is it? I mean, it's a complicated issue, but it comes down to you let free people live as free people at some point.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm not sure exactly if there is a caucus consensus, but I think because these machines are out here and they're unregulated and we really don't have a good knowledge of what's happening there, that ultimately there'll have to be some oversight that we'll need to do in order to, and it will help with some revenue.
What do you think?
I don't think Missourians trust the Missouri government to do with what they're supposed to do with it. I mean, I don't think gaming.
Well, I agree with that.
I mean, the casinos. I mean, it's supposed to go to schools. Does it really? So we don't know. I mean, I think it's one of the things that if it's regulated properly, I agree with you. I think it's something that we could legalize and, like you said, let people do what they want to do.
Les, real quick, the Gun Safety Committee's meeting. It's an issue that I know you've talked many times about. What are some common sense things that could be done that you really do believe would impact that crime rate?
I think we need to kind of take an approach of trying to address the issue right now and then looking at some preventive measures. I mean, I think that we ultimately as a state really need to grapple with some common sense gun legislation around kind of some red flag laws and the like, but then also look at what kind of preventive measures we can do to ensure that folks have access to jobs, access to drug treatment, and those types of things that ultimately lead them down the road to where they participate in these violent acts.
If you were sitting back in the cloakroom and somebody said, is there a gun control law that could be passed next year, would it be possible and what would it look like?
My question to them is, what is your goal? The goal is, let's stop crime. So why are we focusing on taking away people's guns or controlling guns? Why aren't we focusing on crime? Why aren't we focusing on backing our police, giving them the resources to do the job, and get the guns off the street that are there? That's the answer. All those other things are great, but they're long-term plans. What we need to do is something right now.
We have a very short-term problem. So we have a minute left. Who won the week?
Governor Parson, for all the reasons I stated earlier.
Yeah. Who won the week?
I will tell you, I think every candidate that ran this week won the week because they're patriots for doing it, because it's not easy to run.
It is not easy, and people forget that sometimes. These are real people. It's not easy. Who won the week?
The easy pick would be Trish Gunby and flipping a red seat blue, but let me also give a shout out to John Bowman, who is the new president of the St. Louis County branch of the NAACP.
I think the St. Louis area and the state's going to benefit from his service.
Yes.
Who won the week?
I think it was the squad in AOC, because that's all the Republicans did was try to tie Trish Gunby to them, and Trish won. So hey, look at that.
I'm going to say who you should have said, which is Clint and Megan McBride had a new baby.
Barrett Rose.
Congratulations to them. And I'm going to say Elijah Har. It's so interesting. You look at a younger person taking office, a visionary person, one of the most talented people to be speaker, maybe going back to Steve Tilley even. I think it's a terrific thing with this Hyperloop, and I think someday maybe Gussie and Millie may be able to go see their aunt and uncle in Kansas City on the Hyperloop. Hope you will Hyperloop right back here next week for the Week of Missouri Politics. We'll have Lincoln Huff on the show. Should be fun.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, SPIRE, and Sterling Bank.